Hi, see this square? 30 million tourists a year. They buy masks like this one and laugh.
But they don't know what they're standing on. The center of this square is 18 centimeters higher than the edges. Know why? Mass graves underneath.
I have seen cities fall to swords and fire, but this city died differently, quietly, on the water. And it invented the word for its own salvation: quarantine.
1346, Crimea, the port of Kaffa. The Mongols have been besieging the Genoese fortress for over a year, but their army is melting away. Not from swords, from disease. Black buboes on necks and groins. Death in 3 days.
The Mongols do what? If we believe the chronicler Gabriele de Musi, no one had done before. They hurled plague corpses over the walls with trebuchets, the first biological weapon in history.
The Genoese flee on their ships. On board, rats. And the rats, fleas. And the fleas, the bacterium Yersinia pestis. All of it through this very water.
January 1348. Ships from Kaffa enter the lagoon.
The chronicler watched both of these places die. I will take you there. A city that survived, and a village that never came out. By the end, you will understand which choice was more terrifying.
Piazza San Marco. 30 million tourists a year. They take photos. They buy masks. They feed the pigeons. And they don't know they're standing on bones. I have seen cities fall to swords and fire, but this city died differently, quietly, on the water, and it invented the word for its own salvation: quarantine. 1346, Crimea, the port of Kaffa. The Mongols have been besieging the Genoese fortress for over a year, but their army is melting away, not from swords, from disease. Black buboes on necks and groins. Death in 3 days. The Mongols do what? If we believe the chronicler Gabriele de Musi, no one had done before. They hurl plague corpses over the walls with trebuchets, the first biological weapon in history. The Genoese flee in panic on their ships. Galleys sail into the Mediterranean. On the ships, rats. In the rats, fleas. In the fleas, the bacterium Yersinia pestis. All of it sailing toward Venice. In January of 1348, galleys from Kaffa enter the lagoon. On board, the dead and the dying. Sailors with black marks on their skin. Captains who cannot stand on their feet. Venice opens its port to them. By April, the plague is inside the city. Venice is one of the largest cities in Europe. 100,000 people. Overcrowding, canals, rats everywhere. The perfect trap. 25 to 30 people buried every day near Rialto alone. Bodies lie in the streets. The stench from houses where the dead remain uncollected, because there is no one left to collect them. The Doge appoints a committee of 3 wise men. They are powerless. Bodies are carried out by boat. Rowers transport the dead to islands in the lagoon. Those who row become infected themselves and die on the way back. Venice loses half its population, 50,000 dead. Doge Andrea Dandolo records in his chronicle, "The city is empty. Officials are fleeing." In July, the council forbids leaving Venice under threat of losing status and property. But the plague does not read laws. There are too many dead. The cemeteries are full. So Venice does what only a city on water can do. It gives its islands to the dead. Lazaretto Vecchio, a small island in the lagoon. There was a monastery here. 5 monks. In 1423, after yet another wave of plague, the world's first permanent plague hospital will open here. 200 beds. Those who survive will leave. The rest will stay forever. The chronicler Rocco Benedetti will write of the plague of 1576. 500 people died every day. It was like hell. But in 1348, it was even worse. There is no time to dig graves. Bodies are laid in layers, one on top of another, in pits. Archaeologist Matteo Barini, who studied the burials, will say, layer upon layer, like lasagna. 1,500 skeletons found on one island, thousands more still underground. But the Lazaretto is overflowing, and so Venice begins using other islands. Poveglia, a small island south of the city. They bring not only the sick here, they bring those suspected of having the plague, and those already dead, the living, together with the dead. The sick are unloaded onto the shore. Doctors meet them wearing masks, with long beaks stuffed with herbs. They believe the herbs purify the air of disease. They are wrong. Bodies are thrown into pits. When the pits overflow, they burn them. According to National Geographic, over 100,000 people died on Poveglia. Locals say the soil on the island is half human ash. Fishermen still avoid it. They are afraid of pulling up bones. Venice survives and learns its lessons. In 1423, after yet another wave of plague, the Senate creates the world's first permanent quarantine hospital on the island of Lazaretto Vecchio. In 1468, a second island, Lazaretto Nuovo. Here, ships wait 40 days before entering the city. 40 giorni, 40 days. The Venetian authorities call it contumacia, isolation. The word is still carved into the walls of the Lazaretto, but the people will remember a different word, quarantina. 40 days. It will outlive the plague, outlive the Venetian Republic, outlive the centuries. In 2020, the whole world will learn it again. Cargo was fumigated with rosemary and juniper. Coins were washed in vinegar. People were kept in separate sections, family from family. They did not know how the plague spread, but their system worked. Venice created the world's first public health system, 400 years before germ theory. Today, if you look carefully at certain squares in Venice, you will notice the center of the square is 18 centimeters higher than the edges. It is not architecture. Beneath the squares, mass graves, bodies that could not be taken to the islands in time. Plague doctor masks, the long beak stuffed with herbs. are now sold as souvenirs on every corner. Tourists try them on and laugh. These masks are the symbol of one of the greatest catastrophes in human history, and the most ingenious response to it. Venice lost 50,000 people, then lost more and more. The plague returned again and again in 1361, 74, 1400, 1423, dozens of times over 3 centuries. But Venice did not die. It became the first city in history to systematically fight a pandemic, not with prayers, not by fleeing, with logic and organization. I have seen cities die. This city should have perished. But Venice is not a victim city. Venice is the city that looked at the plague and said, "We do not understand you, but we will outlive you."
Venice survived. It built a system, islands for the dead, 40 days of isolation, coins washed in vinegar. That was the answer of logic.
But 300 years later, in a village in the hills of Derbyshire, 350 people will say something different. They will say, "We understand."
1665. In London, the Great Plague rages. 100,000 dead, bodies stacked in pits, the city in agony. But 300 kilometers to the north, there is a village that doesn't yet know London is sending it death, wrapped in cloth.
September 1665. Tailor Alexander Hadfield receives a parcel from London, cloth. His assistant George Vickers opens the bundle and hangs the cloth to dry by the fire. He doesn't know the cloth carries fleas.
Within a week, George Vickers is dead. September 1665. In London, the Great Plague rages. 100,000 dead, bodies stacked in pits. The city is in agony. But 300 kilometers north, in the Derbyshire Hills, there is a village that doesn't yet know London is sending it death, wrapped in cloth. In early September, Tailor Alexander Hadfield receives a parcel from London, cloth. His assistant George Vickers opens the bundle and hangs the cloth to dry by the fire. He doesn't know the cloth carries fleas, fleas carrying bubonic plague. Within a week, George Vickers is dead. After him, the neighbors die. The Hadfield family, children on the next street. By December, 42 dead. The village panics. People want to flee. In winter, the plague slows. People think it's over. In spring, it returns, stronger. Then the new village rector, William Mompesson, gathers the villagers at the church and says the words that will change everything. If we leave, we carry the plague to Sheffield, Bakewell, to every village around us. Thousands will die because of us. I ask you to stay. They agreed. 350 people decided to lock themselves in a village with the plague. Not to run, not to save themselves, to stay and die, so that others might live. The quarantine began in June 1666. The rules are simple and terrifying. No one enters, no one leaves. Families bury their own dead. Church services held outdoors to keep distance. Food left at boundary stones. Payment, coins soaked in vinegar. Services were held at Cucklet Delph, a natural amphitheater among the rocks. Montpessin stood on a rock above. Parishioners sat apart, family from family. The first social distancing in history. In July and August, the plague peaks. 5 to 6 deaths per day. In a village of 350. Imagine, every morning you wake and learn another neighbor is gone. Then there are no neighbors left, and the plague knocks on your door. Elizabeth Hancock. In 8 days in August, she lost her husband and 6 children. She buried them herself, alone, no help. She dragged their bodies across the field to the edge of her farm and dug the graves with her own hands. Elizabeth Hancock survived. Villagers from neighboring Stony Middleton watched from a hill as she buried her family. They could not cross the boundary. They could only watch. Emmett Siddall, 22 years old. She had a fiancé, Roland Torre, from the next village. When the quarantine sealed the boundary, they couldn't be together. But every day they came to a stone at the village edge. She on one side, he on the other. They couldn't touch, only see each other, only speak. Every day, she came. Every day, he came. One day in April, she didn't come. Roland waited until dark, and the next day, and the next. She never came again. By November 1666, the plague was gone, as suddenly as it had come. Of 350 residents, 90 survived. 260 names are carved into the wall of St. Lawrence Church. Montpessin lost his wife, Catherine. She was infected while helping the sick. He buried her himself in the churchyard, under a tree that stands to this day. He stayed until the end. The man who asked them to die lost more than anyone. The plague never left Eyam. Sheffield survived. Bakewell survived. Thousands of people who will never know the names of those who died for them. Eyam didn't fall. Eyam held. That is the most terrifying part of this story. They knew they would die, and they stayed anyway. I have seen cities fall to swords, to fire, to the ground beneath them. But this village didn't fall. It chose. And in that choice there is more greatness than in all the empires I have witnessed.
260 names, carved in stone. I touch them with my fingers and feel every letter. Emmett stood here, every day. Roland there, beyond the stone. They couldn't touch each other. One day she didn't come.
A city built a system. 40 days. Islands for the dead. Coins and vinegar. Logic. A village made a choice. 350 people decided to stay with the plague so the plague would not leave with them. One saved itself. The other saved everyone else. And here is the irony. Plague doctor masks, the beak stuffed with herbs, now hang in Venice souvenir shops. Tourists try them on and laugh. And in St. Lawrence Church, 260 names are carved into the wall. No tours go there.
At the beginning I asked, which of the two choices was more terrifying? Here is my answer. The one you would not make.
The The past never stays buried.
Subscribe. The Chronicler has more to show, and I will take you there.